Conan the Barbarian is here on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, released by Arrow Video. It can be found as a limited edition, available at your online retailers. Now, this film was the first adult-themed fantasy movie I ever watched, and have been hooked ever since. Arnold Schwarzenegger was early in his career. He doesn't really say much, especially when you compare it to the sequel. As such, the supporting cast carries a lot of the weight dialogue-wise, but it's really the world, the violence, and the villain of Thulsa Doom that really pull you into the film. Adult-skewed swords and sorcery films like this one are a rarity, especially these days. The use of practical sets and locations make the world more alive, an element sorely missing in today's movies. Conan the Barbarian is an 80s fantasy treasure, which is among one of my favorites in the genre. It's a bit sad that the follow-up waters down the setting and tone, but the fact that the original film exists at all is why it'll always have a permanent place on my shelf. If you're a first-timer with Conan, I highly recommend you check it out. Conan the Barbarian on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray has an aspect ratio of 235:1 with native 4K resolution, and it supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. For purposes of this review, I will be discussing the Dolby Vision encode. Now, also of note, Arrow Video has provided 3 different versions of the film: the 127-minute theatrical cut, the 129-minute international version, and the 130-minute extended cut. The option to play which version you prefer can be found in the main menu on the disc. The film underwent a restoration from Arrow Video, which have all but eliminated most source-related imperfections and blemishes. Grain structure, while present and apparently unmanaged, does tend to fluctuate depending on the scene. Shots involving optical effects, for example, can produce a heavier grain field, as do some lower-level lighting sequences. This is one of those films that if you like some good meaty-looking grain, you'll get it here. Bit rates run consistently high, which Arrow is well known for, so there aren't any noticeable dips in picture quality. Image clarity is noticeably improved over the rather dated-looking Blu-ray. The picture shows sharper depth and more intricacies in general textures. Details look fantastic, with close-ups bearing better results. The variety of clothing and costuming showcase all the fun details. Glistening sweat and dirt are much more visible. Aside from some inherent softness from the source, the picture is wonderfully clear. Dolby Vision offers a noteworthy bump and enhancement to the palette, but never looks too ostentatious. The swords and sorcery fantasy setting is nicely emboldened now. Reds in particular can have a fierce vibrancy, but don't become too exaggerated. Whites are stable and don't succumb to blooming. Skin tones are natural and look great. Black levels are serviceable, but can occasionally go from deep to elevated, which is once again an element from the source. Shadow detail offers improvements with little to no crushing present. Conan the Barbarian on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray supports a new Dolby Atmos audio mix, which will fold down to a Dolby 7.1 for those that are not Atmos capable. It also supports the original DTS mono track. A final option, a score-only 2.0 mix, can be found on the extended cut of the film. The newly minted Dolby Atmos, while not a total game changer, does succeed in providing the viewer a more expansive soundstage. High channel activity is a bit limited with little discrete output, mostly used in a complementary fashion with occasional ambient audio cues or score. Action sequences can liven things up a bit, which allows some more bits to pour through the mid-levels and rears. It isn't constant, but when it kicks in, it's easily noticeable to the ears. The fronts are fine with their respective outputs and complement the center. Dialogue is usually clean from start to finish. The low end has some fairly good weight to it, strong as it can be considering the source. No audio source-related issues were present, and the overall playback was fine. I sampled the disc's original mono track, and if you're a purist, this will be right up your alley. Its overall output is clean with no problems, dialogue is clear, and in-film action is presented well. Arrow Video's offerings of extras is a mix of both new and old. The only extras on the 4K disc is audio commentaries, and the bulk of the new supplements are found on the accompanying Blu-ray. Conan Unchained, The Making of Conan is one of the returning supplements I've always enjoyed. It's a good old-fashioned documentary, which they don't make like this anymore for films. The Art of Steel is another favorite of mine. I love going into stuff involving film weaponry. The variety of new interviews on this disc are some fun bits of info. Costuming Conan is pretty insightful, as well as crafting Conan's magic. There is easily an afternoon's worth of extras here, which will more than satisfy those looking for new and old features. For the picture quality, I'm going to give Conan the Barbarian on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray an A-. Arrow's restoration of the film will be more than enough to trade in that old Blu-ray. The picture has a solid newfound clarity, a nice layer of Dolby Vision, and an overall boost to detail. Fans of this Arnold classic will no doubt be impressed. For the audio mix, I scored this one a B+. Of course, having a new Atmos track is most welcome. It doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, though. Ambience is in abundance and is most prominent in the surrounds, the heights are used more sparingly, and the overall presentation up front sounds good. Still, this is a solid, well-rounded mix. For the extras, I graded this one an A. Both a wide array of new and old offerings are found here, and each has something for every Conan fan. If you're a supplements kind of viewer, this will leave you more than satisfied. Released simultaneously, Conan the Destroyer is also here on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, released by Arrow Video. It can be found as a limited edition available at your online retailers. Now, with the success of the original film, Hollywood, which has a history of learning all the wrong lessons, brings us this follow-up, which to be fair has a good amount of going for it, it's just lesser in quality. The adult-skewed fantasy setting from the first film is largely here, minus some of the more R-rated elements. There are still plentiful amounts of violence and blood, Arnold's Conan speaks a lot more, and we do have the amazing Grace Jones. I've always felt that gearing it more towards a family-friendly audience was ultimately what hurt the movie. As I said before, it does have its moments. The final creature battle was pretty thrilling, the hack-and-slash sword fights are still there, and the use of magic in the film is dialed up a bit more. While Conan the Destroyer may not have been the sequel we deserved, it's certainly worth a revisit to the world of Conan, even if it's not an ideal one. Conan the Destroyer on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray has a 235:1 aspect ratio with native 4K resolution and supports both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. For purposes of this review, I will be discussing the Dolby Vision encode. Arrow Video has also restored the sequel with just as much care and attention as the original. Source blemishes are nearly non-existent, and the overall quality looks very much refreshed. Grain structure is more consistent in this film, which fluctuated a bit in the first movie's 4K. Bit rates are healthy, giving the viewer a nicely stable picture throughout. The image clarity shows a more than appreciable uptick in detail. Close-ups reveal a lot of even the more subtle bits of nuances. Bloody swords, cuts, dirt, all are on full display. The Dolby Vision Pass allows a much bolder, visually pleasing palette. The film looks more true here, which on the Blu-ray took on a bit of an unnatural tint. Day scenes are decidedly striking, showing off very blue skies. The variety of earthy tone settings have more depth, greenery is beautifully lush, and the often colorful costuming, lighting, and magical effects are enhanced well. Black levels are also a bit stronger on the sequel's 4K transfer. Darker interiors and night scenes are appropriately deep, and a strong showing of shadow detail conveys no signs of crush. Conan the Destroyer on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray supports a new Dolby Atmos audio mix, which also folds down to a Dolby True HD 7.1 for those that are not Atmos capable. It also supports the original DTS mono track and in music only DTS 2.0. The sequel has also been given an audio facelift with a new Dolby Atmos mix. Once again, as with Conan the Barbarian, the audio does get a bit more spacious. It of course is a bit limiting with what it is available from the source, but it does feel more immersive overall. Height effects are primarily reserved for ambient cues, which are more complementary by nature. Mid-level and rears are similarly effective, with additional audio involving action and crowd noise further pulling you in. Dialogue reproduction is clean and easy to hear, with the fronts doing a good job. The LFE has a satisfying presence, which makes itself known when it's called for. As for the included mono mix, I found it to be clean and issue-free. In-film action is robust during fight scenes, and dialogue comes through perfectly clear. Conan the Destroyer supplements from Arrow are also a healthy mix of new and old, but not nearly as expansive as the first film. With this being my first time looking at any of the film's extras, I found Conan the Making of a Comic Book Legend to be the more interesting of the old offerings. Cut from a different cloth is one of the new extras that really has some cool tidbits about the costuming of the film. I haven't had the chance to check out any of the audio commentaries, but there are 3 on disc as well as an isolated score track. I think for me what really would have put this one over the top as far as extras go are the rumored deleted scenes, which unfortunately are nowhere to be found on this disc. For the picture quality, I'm going to give Conan the Destroyer on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray an A. The overall transfer has received a more than serviceable upgrade. Grain structure is consistent, the palette is very bold, and details shine with the resolution bump. If you're a fan of the sequel, you'll enjoy what you see. For the audio mix, I'll score this one a B. The addition of a Dolby Atmos mix is a cool but not the most immersive of the two films. The overall track has a good presence, though the included mono mix will be a good listen for purists. All in all, a satisfying track. As for the extras, I graded them an A-. There is a good variety of new and old supplements to keep fans satisfied. While not as abundant as the original film in quantity, it is enough to keep you entertained if you're into the behind the scenes of the film. So those are my reviews of Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. If you're interested in picking these up for yourself, I will leave direct Amazon links in the comments section. If you use it, it really helps out the channel. But if you have the disc already, let me know your thoughts down below. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.